Now, the Anya police are on a manhunt for an uncle said to have sexually abused and defiled his 10-year-old niece for 4 years. The 46-year-old fugitive, only named as David, is reported to have fled their home after initially admitting to abusing the girl we choose to call Abby. Now, the girl is battling a sexually transmitted infection and says her uncle began playing with her genitalia when she was only 6 years old and continued until she was taught in school not to allow anyone to touch her inappropriately. Komla Adom visited the family.
I was 6 years when he started. He fondles my breast and touches me inappropriately. He groped me in the kitchen several times, especially when no one is around. He gave me 10 cedis to play with his penis.
That is the account of 10-year-old Abby, who is now left with permanent scars from almost 4 years of sexual abuse at the hands of her own uncle. At 6 years, her uncle David began playing with her genitals whenever her parents were away.
He shows me pornographic movies on his phone before touching me. I struggled out of his grasp the other day.
Her mother says from her daughter's narration, her uncle sometimes carries out the act after hypnotizing her. This is how the issue came to light.
Our teacher taught us to resist elderly people touching our private parts. That was when I learned all my uncle had been doing to me was very bad.
Describe how and today, 10-year-old Abby is battling a sexually transmitted infection, according to a medical report cited by Joy News. The report by doctors at the Anya Government Hospital also revealed her hymen is broken. But a decision to have the culprit prosecuted is splitting the family while the perpetrator remains on the run.
Her uncle admitted to abusing her. He pleaded to be forgiven and offered to cater for her medical bills.
Hospital bill can be anything.
David's grandfather asked that we settle this at home.
For now, the Anya police has begun investigating the matter. But mother of a 10-year-old says she is hopeful the matter will be dealt with speedily.
We hope the police will speed up the prosecution if he's found.
Undergo treatment, can it be?
She's been diagnosed of gonorrhea and is being treated.
Friday in Calaba, I feel a test again gonorrhea.
At 10 years, she's already scarred. Her pride has been taken. But she says,
I wanted them to catch him to jail. And then they should send him to court.
Why?
Because he has hurt me.
Let's talk about this. Joining me in the studio, Cecilia Senoo is Executive Director, Hope for Future Generations, and Florence Ezikote is Acting Director at the Department of Children of the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection. Ladies, thank you so much for making the time to be with us, and it's good to see you both.
Thank you.
It's a pity about the circumstances, though. Another grueling tale of a young child whose trust in those meant to protect her has been abused, violated. Okay, the suspect is on the run. The law is to deal with him. But are both of your organizations aware of the current status of this young girl? Where is she? What's being done for her?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to you and your listeners. I heard this morning on Joy News, and I was telling my husband that I think there's a problem in this country. If uncles, relatives that children trust, continuously abuse them, then there is a problem that we have to address. After doing that, because he knew he has done something wrong, he's on the run. He needs to face the law. And it's not right, because these children, if you look at the UN Convention on the Right of the Child, this is a very serious abuse. This is a very serious issue, and the person must be punished and imprisoned. Yes.
All right. I mean, I want us to start by speaking about the girl and her current situation.
Yeah.
Are you able to update us, Florence?
This is also, I also heard it this morning, but as is being said, in most cases like that, we have to rely first on the police report to see what's the next step to be done. Because from what I heard, the report is being worked on. So I've been in touch with my colleagues at Dopsu to see what the next steps will be. And sometimes because of confidentiality, they need to get permission before they can give you details about somebody that has reported cases. So they are going through the process to see whether we can have direct contact with the family. Then we know how we can assess in that. Because for this year, with the support of the Human Trafficking Secretariat, the ministry now has 3 psychosocialists on our employment list. So we're able to provide some form of counseling for victims. So if we're able to get, and then we're able to assess with the triage and see what best to do to assist the situation.
We also are aware that the young girl has contracted some sexually transmitted disease. Is there a strategy there, something to do about that?
What we have at the moment is not enough. Because, for example, we're supposed to have a working DV fund that's supposed to help in situations like this. Thankfully, with the interaction with the Ministry of Finance, they are about transferring some funds into the fund to enable us access to help in such situations. Because this is a clear case of domestic violence that can be helped through the fund. But aside that, we are also able to leverage local funding from partners to assist in such situations. So that's what I'm saying, that we are waiting to get the permission to get access, and then we'll see how we'll triage.
Madam Cecilia, let's talk about the social protection aspect of this matter. So as we are aware, the suspect has bolted, but the family is divided on whether or not the suspect should be brought to justice. Now, I mean, I will make the obvious point that it should not be up to families whether or not a crime is prosecuted. But they are already discussing, and it appears half of the family would like this uncle to basically get away with it.
Yeah, which is not right. I think the family must really know that the child has a right. I think she's 10 years.
She is now.
Yes, so the parents still have to take decisions. She's a minor. But if the family think that protecting the culprit, who is a relative, is what they should do, I think the law must take its course, because that is why we have systems, that is why we have institutions that are responsible. The child belongs to the country. And so the institution must quickly rise up, ensure that the parents stay away, the family stay away, and then they take it up. Because one, I think my biggest worry, that sexually transmitted disease can prevent this child from getting children one day. Gonorrhea can destroy a lot of systems, reproductive health system. It needs quick treatment. Two, other sexually transmitted diseases that we are not able to identify must be treated. She said that they are waiting for money to be transferred into a fund. I don't think that is what we should be doing. The fund must be available. It must be assessed in situations like this, especially where the parents don't have money. The child shouldn't suffer. The country and the nation must take up the responsibility. That is why they have rights as children. She's not working. And so if my parents don't have money, I'm for the state. What is the state doing for me as a Ghanaian? I think we must really address that.
Florence, I want to ask you a question, and this is not meant to put you on the spot at all. You have a job, yeah, you have a job to do, and I appreciate that. But this morning on radio, we had a discussion about whether or not public servants feel able to speak the truth, even if it will look bad for their political employers. And Florence, this is an opportunity to see whether indeed, that works in your situation. So you've talked about the fact that this fund is not yet populated with money. So you are not even in a position to act in situations like this yet. But we know how quickly money is mobilized when there's a need to buy a 4x4. We know this.
Yeah.
We are all in this country. Do you feel, in the position that you occupy, that our state does not apply enough priority to the rights of children, particularly vulnerable children?
Thank you very much. What should I say? It's not a direct answer, because there are so many things that when it comes to children's rights that we enjoy as a country. We have a lot of funding going to child health promotion, children education, and other aspects of child protection that exist in the country. We are having challenges with some of the fundings that are existing, because for the last 5 years, government put a hold on putting money in funds, because the issue was that there were so many funds and it was becoming difficult to populate them all the time.
You mean accounts?
Accounts, yes.
Yes, well that's different from funds. I mean,
that's it, because all these funds have accounts at the Bank of Ghana.
Yes.
So therefore,
they
have to rationalize this account to see.
So where was this fund rationalized to? Where is it?
Now that's why it's coming back, because they finished with the rationalization last year, and the first fund that we got something towards the human trafficking fund. We got 500,000 last year. This year we have gotten 1 million into the fund. And it's the same thing with the DV fund. The DV fund wasn't situated at the Bank of Ghana. It has to be opened at the Bank of Ghana now to ensure all the formulas of government apply.
How many minutes does it take to open an account?
Why have you waited?
Why has it taken us a year?
Processes sometimes delay in getting the proper thing done for this kind of account. So
not when it's a priority.
It is.
The fund for buying 4x4s
you have a release pending into the account, which because other funds didn't get. So to have 2 funds at the ministry having releases pending is something, because now that the releases have come, we can spend, and then because we are doing accrual accounting now, so we can
look
spend,
at the figures. The numbers you've mentioned: 500,000, 1 million. This is for a year of operation, and I mean. We know how much money is allocated to other things. This is the reason why I'm asking whether you feel, in your position, that children are prioritized.
Yeah, children. As for children being prioritized, I would say yes. But there are aspects of protection that sometimes don't get the needed funding that we need. Because when you come to children from 0 to 18 years, anything that happened there is their rights. When you look at the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, there are about more than 47 rights that are attributed to children. And government is working across all the sectors to ensure that all these rights exist.
But this girl is having to wait for her rights to be enforced.
Thank God the police can still mobilize and look for the person.
She doesn't have the social help that she's supposed to have.
She will have.
She's not having the medical support she's supposed to have. And these are all part of the 47 rights that you refer to.
Yes.
So she's waiting for her rights to be implemented.
But we are looking at a child who has been abused and is waiting to get support. That's what I'm saying, that there's supposed to be a triage that is supposed to happen. Because sometimes when these cases happen, sometimes depending on the experience of the first person that was reported to, then you don't get some of the services that I'm saying that we are trying to get in, because we have the experience of the domestic violence social workers who know how to triage and do a case and do it properly. Because there are other places that we leverage to get assistance in these situations. It's not only because we have private partners who are willing. We have hospitals who are willing to treat such children free of charge. But if the person doing the trial doesn't know to get in touch. That's what I'm saying. When we are working to get in touch, but all this have rights. Because if the child doesn't want to give consent to have people get close, sometimes you have to manage all this. The right to privacy.
But that's not your delay at this point. In this case, that's not the problem, is it?
The problem is part of the problem for me. Because I heard this morning.
If the child gives you access, you don't have money. So
I'll get.
You will get.
Yes, that's how we have been managing.
So you have to get access first before you go and get the money.
No, the thing is, if I don't have the person, what do I give? Because if I'm having access, then I know where to refer the person to.
Yeah, but if you have the access and you don't have money, what are you going to do?
That's why there's collaboration all over.
So let me ask you this. Are you happy with the amount of time, resources, and priority that this government gives to the protection of children?
I wish there was more.
So you're not satisfied with it?
What I have, I work within, but I wish there was more.
All right.
Because,
help us understand the implication of not having enough. You know,
the implication of not having enough is that you don't cover as many children as you want to. You don't get to go to many communities to do your sensitization as you want to. But within what you have, you try to maximize, work with other collaborators, other NGOs, because we have been able to exist and work within the system because of the support we get from other NGOs, other development partners to support the work that we are doing. But without that, then we will not be able to reach more people as we want. But we wish the budget was larger so that we could reach everybody at a particular time.
How much did your department ask for in the 2020 budget? How much
in the 2020 budget, our ministry, within the department, we asked for close to 1 million. We've been promised a top-up, so we are hoping that we'll get maybe about half of that. And then if you're able to mobilize from RDPs, we'll be able to achieve what we set out to do for the country.
Protect the millions of children in Ghana.
The job of protection is shared across sectors. We have a role as a department, that of information sharing and coordination. Other people have services that they're supposed to give. They also have their budget for services. Police DOFSU have their budget. So you see the budget is shared according to rules. Ministry of Education, their protection for the girl child is within their budget. So it's not only the money that comes to Department of Children that shows government commitment, but it's the money across the sectors.
So
it's quite
So to understand you, the role of the Department of Children is to share information.
Share information, do research on the various issues, monitor the implementation of the CRC across various ministries, look for gaps, and recommend for programming to make differences in the life of children.
So it would not be your department that we would ask questions of when we want to know why this young girl is waiting for her rights. It's not your department.
It's not my department.
That's interesting. But who should we be questioning?
It depends, because this is a DV case. What the law says that when a DV case happens, first report to police. Police call social welfare. Social welfare officer is supposed to triage. That means that she or he is supposed to plan what services the person is supposed to need, whether it's health assistance, assistance to court, helping the DOFSU officer take the information from a child in a manner that is child-friendly, and to ensure that during all this process, the child right is not abused, and to ensure that you write a proper social inquiry report about the whole situation to the court to assist in making decisions.
Has this been done for this child?
It will be done. So for us,
it's not been done yet.
It will be done, because that's what I'm saying, that I'm not able to get in touch with the case, because there's no way a case on this can go to court without the social inquiry report. It's required, and that's the work of the social welfare officer. They will do. Has
the social welfare officer been assigned to this child?
It will be, because there's no way the police will start a case without social welfare.
Okay, so there will be one. There is one, basically.
There will be one.
Okay, well, I mean, you've heard how the system works, or, well, doesn't work, because it's so disjointed. Yeah. I wonder, I mean, what would your recommendation be to ensure that, God forbid, but if anything like this happens to any other child, that the access to the system and protections and defense of their rights would be quicker, and that the effect of such a heinous crime on a child would be reduced?
Yeah. I think listening to this is an emergency case, because psychologically the child is suffering. The first thing we should do is even to alleviate that psychological torture, because I heard her saying that she's been tortured, she's suffering, she's in pain. I don't think our system works effectively. I'm looking at a very strong collaboration. I think there are so many people who come into play, but if a child is abused, we should be running to address it. I think she said it will be done. It will be done. It will be done. How long? Maybe it's because of this that the family think that there is no need wasting all this time. 2, the money you'll be taking car going, and then they say, let's stay somewhere and solve our own problem. I think because of the systemic failures, that is why people resort to their own justice. They do their own thing. And at the end, who's the child? Because she's a minor. And she still relies on us as adults to protect her. And so for me, my biggest worry is how should we make sure that our system is working? To cut short this bureaucracy and address the human rights issues. Because the bureaucracy, long. They have other cases waiting. I don't think we will leave all other cases and attend to. We will finish others, and she might be the last by then, maybe next year. While she's going through all this, I know Ghana Health Service will take care of the sexually transmitted diseases because of the pain and the agony that she's going through. But when will she get justice? Whilst the person, I think we should really look at it.
All right. So I think for such cases, when the police take a case to court, I mean, depending on how all those things that happens, sometimes you go through, you solve the pain and the psychosocial, but the next thing is proceeding with justice. What evidence is there? Is there evidence enough to be taken to court? Will we get it substantiated by a doctor or by any other person who saw the thing? Is the child able to articulate in a way that when the evidence is being given, it will really hold in court? All these things are considered by the Attorney General's Department when the docket is sent. So for this and this thing, sometimes, yes, it takes a long time because docket go, docket come. But once the case, that's why it's very important, and it cannot be stressed, that anytime such a thing happens, don't wait 2 days, don't wait 1. Immediately you see it, report, and then the evidence is taken. Because the more it takes longer for evidence to be taken, the higher the rate of the perpetrator getting away scot-free. And then as a parent or as a guardian, trying to take charge of the story of what was told you first, so that you emphasize the need to remember the story as it is. Because these are traumatized situations, and sometimes children want to forget about it. But recounting it as it happened in the court of law is really a key in getting the prosecution done at the court of law. And sometimes those are some of the challenges that we face in following up on cases. You go to cases and sometimes laws, it do delay. Because you also get all these things. This person, if it is caught, will get a lawyer. And their lawyer's role is to make sure that they go scot-free. So they will try also to frustrate the process as long as possible to ensure that the victim is frustrated. And then you don't come. But that's why we have people to give the encouragement. Because there have been cases that you follow, and it takes maybe 2 years before the judgment is given. And if there's no support for a family that is not able to sustain itself, then there's a problem. And when, that's what I'm saying, this cases, even though services is not our purview, we try and link up as much as possible. Because we have about 4 or 5 cases where we have support from NGOs giving, what's the name, TNTs, and sometimes we go and pick them ourselves because some of them are near where we work. So there are other things we can do to support family members. And it's not only just the system, and that's the discussion is happening. The family members, not blaming the victim. Because it becomes like the victim takes the blame. You don't know how it worked, but that's how it has come to be. Even if it's a child or an adult, so long as it's a sexual-based or economic-based crime, the person who is weaker is blamed. Because a lot of people sometimes depend on the perpetrator for their livelihood. And therefore, because they do not want to lose that or lose favor, they will support the perpetrator. And then the one who is right and want to present the case will rather be seen as the one in the family who wants to destroy the family. And it's because of sometimes, I don't know what to say, that I don't know whether it's Ghanaian nature or human nature, not wanting to pay for a crime.
You see, that's the interesting thing, because that's what it is. It's a crime. And your department is responsible for providing information about, you know, some of these issues. I mean, where is the failure when we still have a society that thinks they even have a say in whether or not a person gets, you know, prosecuted for a crime? They believe they have a say, which is why they are discussing. And it might mean that some of the family members will end up shielding this man from you know, detection, for example. That could happen. So I'm asking, what's the difficulty? Why do we still have a population that still has these beliefs? Have you not been able to educate them?
We have tried to educate as many people as we can, because we have a drive that we are doing across the country, that we are presently in the all the 16 regions. We've done more than 1.2 million communities on these issues. But it always comes back to the issue of power when it comes to sexual-based violence. It goes beyond people. People know. And sometimes when it comes to this interference, it's not small boys who are interfering. You get the interference as high as it can go. Even a prosecutor could be doing the job. They can get interference from their own hierarchy, because somebody thinks they know somebody who doesn't want their person to go to jail and therefore want to go scot-free. But that's why we also train our prosecutors to know what the law says and to apply the law. I always say that when you work within the law, nobody can fault you for that, because it is when you are trying to do shortcuts that somebody use those excuses to maybe throw your case away. But if the case is done in the proper manner, evidence is collected in the proper manner, all the procedures were followed, there's no way your case will be thrown out. And this training is going on from DOPSU through to the judiciary to our judges, because it's a long process. Some of our judges were trained a long time ago, so you have to always try to update their knowledge on the new laws that have come. And to also, there are new ways of even doing these things, dealing with children cases in a child-friendly manner. Our police, the motto is arrest and prosecute. So if you look at even how the training was being done, that is the buga type, just go with force and this. But now we have what we call child-friendly policing being introduced into the Ghana Police Service, and it's part of their training now. And it's a pass-up. You have to pass before you are given a certificate as a police to practice, to sort of build their capacity of how to interact with children when they come into contact with them, and to know how to deal with such cases as and when they come. Because sometimes the attitude of a police officer at the counter will put off a victim. Because they be, why did you go there? Why didn't you run away? But knowing that sometimes when things happen to you, in fear you freeze. And you wonder, why didn't I run away? Because you are so overwhelmed with the fear. And then people don't seem to get all these things. And because they know that somebody will help them run away, then they are empowered. They do first one, second one. So I always say that it's us as a country. We just have to ensure that when somebody does the wrong thing, we ensure that they face the penalty. We shouldn't show people. When it comes to somebody...
You haven't quite told me what your department's challenge has been in educating people, so that as a nation, we would actually no longer hold that view.
But I think we hold the view that...
we can, you know, decide whether or not someone should be prosecuted.
That view is not because of education. The whole world over, it's not peculiar only to Ghana. It's a phenomenon across the world.
So across the world, we have families sitting down to discuss settling defilement cases with plantain and tubers of yam. It happens across the world.
Yes, lawyers are paid victims of. What does that mean? It's the same thing, but done in a different manner. Because somebody is powerful and is abusing another person. So they use their power and influence to get...
So you're telling me that if there's a criminal case brought against a pedophile in the US or the UK, a lawyer can pay the victim off.
Yes, some do.
But you know there's a criminal case.
Yes,
Whether the victim participates in the prosecution or not, they will proceed.
They will do. Because it's evidence-based. Every case is evidence-based. And that's one of the key things we are trying to do with our law. In other jurisdictions, when a case like this happens, they tape the first interview and do a detailed analysis and take notes. So whether you, the victim, appear or not, it's the state against the perpetrator.
That's what I was actually going to point out to you.
It's
when you said they do. So with that in place,
state,
how can they?
Yes. So that's one of the key new proposals we are putting in the review of the Children's Act. That instead of saying that victims have to give, because if they settle this case in court and put pressure, then they vanish. The police are looking for them to come and give evidence in court. They don't. But now, as the law exists, you need to appear in court and give the personal account for the case to be completed. So the review now we are hoping for is that the initial intake of the case and its evidence should be on its own can settle an abuse case. That you don't need the victim to be there to do that.
Okay.
And we are also reviewing most of the other laws to ensure that this consistency flows through the system.
All right, that's good to know. Let's talk about another aspect of this. Now, the young girl was defiled from the age of 6. It was at the age of 10 that she finally spoke up about it. For 4 years, she didn't. And the thing that made her finally speak up about it is because she was taught in school not to allow strangers to touch her in certain ways. So it was someone in school who even made her realize that she has the option of speaking up about it. This takes us all the way back to this debate about sexuality education, that this whole country seems to have been hoodwinked into thinking it's about LGBT. So nobody spoke about protection of children from this sort of thing. Now, as an organization, tell me, what is your position on the right time for children to be exposed to this sort of education? And bear in mind, if it had been done in class 1, where she was 6 years old, it wouldn't have continued for 4 years.
I think as soon as the child is able to speak, understand, she should gradually be exposed to some of these things. Unfortunately, our culture thinks that if you are a child, you don't hear, you don't have any right. But as early as, for me, I think as early as 2-3 years, the child should know, even knowing the private parts, know what happens and here and there. Abusing a child continuously for 4 years before she got to know, we have failed. Comprehensive sexuality education is not LGBT. It's telling the child all about her body, his or her body, and everything. If we think it's LGBT, then we have failed. Even if it's LGBT, the child should know what it is. It's not like if I know, I'm going to practice. And so when today I was going to bar, when I heard this, I stopped, I listened, I nearly cried. And so the uncle abused continuously and she was in pain. And up to today, she's in pain. And I think we should really sit down as a country. There should be a whole dialogue on this sexuality education and see where we can start and how we can start. We shouldn't rubbish the whole thing. It needs a lot of discussion. I was just discussing it with one of my colleagues. You see, if this child were to have that education, even from class 1, class 2, this wouldn't have happened. And so why do we depend on only teachers? The parents should even know. And so I think it's a whole national, I see it as a gap as a country, and the country should sit up and do something about it. We don't depend on NGOs alone. We don't depend on development partners, but the state should take up that responsibility. Yes.
Interesting. Do you agree?
Maybe this is something that I don't know whether to say age 1 or age 2, but there are instances where children on their own give you a feel of things they know about their body and what they think it means. So anytime such a conversation starts, that's the time to give the information they need at that time. Don't try to brush it. Some of them are very vocal, but 2 years, they can say everything. So when immediately you hear words that you need to explain to them, you need to take the time and explain to them and give them the barriers to their body, and you yourself also put a barrier on what you are supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do. Because if you put a barrier to what you're not supposed to do, immediately another person comes, they know that barrier is not supposed to be crossed. Some parents don't put a barrier, and therefore the children don't know that they have privacy to their own body, and anybody at all can touch them. And the way sometimes you allow them to be roaming and about without any supervision. That's sometimes what happens. People are leaving their children with people they don't really know. But they think because they look like neighbors, they are safe. No, you don't think, never assume that. Because everybody has the potential to harm your child. And you don't even assume that they are far. Your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend are all potential suspects. So you have to be vigilant with your children. No matter how close you think those people are, everybody's mind is close to you. So you have to be vigilant, and anything the child says to you, take it serious. Sometimes it may be that she has said this several times, but they will not listen. And she's been told to be quiet and not say something. Children at that age don't know about such things. And therefore, 1, 2, then she will shut up until somebody, in fact, just validate what she believes to be right, because she knows herself that it's not right. It's because she has received validation of her thought that she has come out to say it. So we need as parents to pay attention. People don't pay attention. We know we are busy, we are supposed to look after them, but pay attention to their protection.
Florence, let me ask you a question. Was your department consulted in the decisions around the curriculum on sexuality education for our basic schools? I
don't remember that. So
that's a no?
That's a no.
If you were consulted, what would you have advised?
I would advise that we start educating our children about their bodies as soon as they ask questions that concern their bodies. Because we need to give children information that is supposed to help them protect themselves. And I always say that giving the right information to a child is also part of protection. Because if I know what my body is supposed to look like, then things happen in a way I will not be scared. I'll be prepared. Because we have girls who have gone through their period without knowing. They didn't even know what it was. They've been enticed into sex and gotten pregnant and didn't even know it was even sex. Because they thought it was something. They are pregnant. They can't associate the fact that they are pregnant with what the incident that took place there. It's because they don't have enough information. So I don't think totally we should rubbish the education of our children on their body and what it means and the growth that the body goes through from age 1 up to when they are adult and about to marry. And even because it's not even children. People are going through menopause. They are not prepared for it. They don't know what it means. They don't know the symptoms. It happens and they're like, I don't know, I think I'm going crazy. But it's because something is happening in their body. So it's not only, so the education about how this body that we own works must be continuous.
So you would not have advised them to completely scrap comprehensive sexuality education? But
I just have to look at it and adopt what suits us. That's all it is. Because we also work within a people and the belief. So you work within the belief, but I don't think that any Ghanaian in their right mind will say, don't give information about the child and what their body is doing. Because that's the only way they can protect themselves.
Right. I want to say a big thank you to the two of you, Florence and Cecilia. It's been very, very revealing. Now,